Hello, you are listening to From Maclay to Zama. I'm your host, Karen Miller. This podcast is about the adventures of two women from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, who worked for the U.S. Army at Camp Zama, Japan, from 1953 to 1955. Their stories are told through hundreds of letters written home.
Hi, welcome to episode 38, letters 115 to 119. Peg finally got a coveted GS-5 job in the information department. I suspect it's more for the prestige that she's excited than the money. But clearly, she does not love the hierarchy of the GS job system. So, of course, woke up with a froggy voice. Tomorrow I have to go back to school. That'll be fun. In the first letter, Peg explains about they recalled all the military money, the notes that were being used, and reissued new ones because of, I guess, black market, some kind of black market activity, and included a newspaper article about the black market, which was interesting. Peg does a pretty good job explaining this situation, I think. I can't believe she's still worrying about what Red Dog is doing, thinking, feeling. Clearly, she still doesn't know that he's married. I would love to be able to ask her about this relationship. He certainly seems to have been important to her, although he's acting more and more like a jerk, in my opinion. I confess, I still can't get over their tank ride in the last episode. I found a picture of an M46 tank to get an idea and ended up learning about the differences between an M26 Pershing tank from World War II and the M46 Patton tank that Byrne drove. Short version, the M46 was more powerful, agile, and had an improved main gun. That's what I learned. It sounds like they had a terrific vacation in Kyoto. Byrne goes into a lot more detail than Peg in describing their activities. I hope you enjoy these letters. Letter 115 from Peg, written May 26, 1954, Camp Zama. Dear Mother and Daddy, I got the job in TINE. Ain't it wonderful? It's a GS-5, as I told you. My letter of availability was approved by everybody in med section, so I went over to TINE for an interview this morning. I was interviewed by a Lieutenant Colonel Shanahan, and he seems very nice. He looked at my experience record and said that if it was okay with me, it's okay with him. He would like me to come over on June 7th, but med section doesn't have to release me until the 19th of June. However, he said they would struggle along until June 19th if necessary. This afternoon, I told Captain Schaefer that the GS-5 was mine. He got kind of huffy and ready to stand on civil service rules and regulations that say that a person isn't supposed to go for an interview until they actually have a letter of availability in their hand. Mine is still going through the mill at present, and I wouldn't get it until maybe next week when I'm in Kyoto, and I wanted to be interviewed before I went away. So he starts to give me a scoshy bad time for going for an interview without a letter. Then he said that Donna, his secretary, is being interviewed for a GS-6 in another section, and that she might be leaving med section, which is GS-5. Then he said, wouldn't you like to work for me for a GS-5? I said I wouldn't work for you for a GS-10. It kind of took him at a loss for words, but I laughed when I said it, although I meant it. He wanted to know why, so I told him we would fight all the time, which is true. Then he said, well, you know that my heart just goes pitter-pat every time you step in this office. That's BS. So I told him that was all the more reason why I couldn't work for him, because between fighting and coronary difficulties, we'd never get anything done. He laughed then, so we conversed some more, and he said finally that he didn't blame me because even though it's almost certain I'd get a 5 in med, he didn't know when I'd get it, and that I should just go ahead and take this available 5 elsewhere. You know, it's hard to believe that it's true because the whole thing happened so quickly and so easily. Med section has a hard time keeping their DACs because of the undercurrent of dissatisfaction with the setup, etc. Quite a few of the gals here have applied for letters of availability and have had to actually fight for them, complete with pounding on Captain Schaefer's desk and hollering, etc. But it just happened to be so easy for me, and I'm pleased with the whole arrangement. Frankly, I don't think they mind in the least letting me go because I certainly haven't done the quality or quantity of work that I'm capable of doing. But ever since Elizabeth got the 5 that was promised to me, I haven't had any interest in this section at all. So that's that. With a new job to learn and new people to meet, this next year will go whizzing by. It takes about 6 months to really learn a job, so I'll be quite busy for at least that long. Mary Carrera, who told me about the job, said that they're usually pretty busy, and that suits me just fine. The only bad feature about that is that you folks will have to put up with my chicken scratching much more than you have had to up to now. But it'll be worth it, won't it? We had a very different day yesterday. At 1400, all sections were told to lock up their files and work and report to admin division of each section for further instructions. We were told that all MPCs, military payment certificates, will be turned in for a new series of MPC. We were given the necessary information, and at 1500, we turned in all our script and got a receipt for it. All the banks, PXs, beauty shops, snack bars, etc. were closed as of 1400, so folks who don't belong to the Officers Club were really in a dither as to where to eat. We were told that we wouldn't get our new MPC until the morning. However, being associate members of the Camp Zama Officers Mess, we ate at the club and signed the order blank with instructions to pay in script for our meals within 48 hours. I did my last stint at Grey Ladies last night. On Tuesday nights, they usually have a party for the patients, but because no one had any money, they felt that the fellows in the detachment needed entertainment for the evening as much as the patients, so the hospital showed a free movie. There were 3 of us Grey Ladies on duty, so we made popcorn and went to the movies with the patients. My escort was a very nice little fella. After we were seated, he whispered, "Do you know that we're sitting in the officers section?" I didn't give a darn where we were sitting, so we stayed where we were. There were some officers sitting in front of us, and they didn't say a word until they heard our popcorn bags rattling. Then they wanted some of our popcorn, and we passed it all over the officers section. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it, as I always do. I guess Red Dog and I aren't friends anymore, because he hasn't called me since he's gotten back from Nagata. I'm ready to scratch him off my list anyhow, because he takes too much for granted. I think those Marines are terrific fellas, but the Zama gals are getting a little fed up with them, because they do take us for granted. They plan a party and expect the gals to be there instead of calling us up and asking formally for a date. They're a grand bunch of guys, but they sure think an awful lot of themselves. Well, that's about it for this time, but I really wanted you to know about my new job. Take care of yourselves and have fun. Love me. Letter 116 from Peg. Thursday night, June 3rd, 1954. Dear Mother and Daddy, this will be just a scoshy note because I'm so tired I could fall asleep right now sitting in this chair. We've been there and back and had a wonderful time. I won't tell you about it now because please refer to paragraph 1. Anyhow, we did have a good time, although we came back a day early because we were going broke, and 2, we had seen enough of the shrines. We haven't gotten our weekly letters yet, but I'm going to go in the office tomorrow and pick up my mail and my check and spend the rest of the day resting up for my vacation. And man, do I need a rest. Enclosed are 2 little things that we bought for you. Spin them, aren't they cute? The next letter you get will tell all about the trip. I must take a shower now. I'm so exhausted, mainly because the train trip was 10 hours. Bye now. We'll write soon. Love and kisses, me. Letter 117 from Byrne included a map of Kyoto and an invitation to see the demonstration at Ushida Woodblock Printing Company. On the other side is a history of woodblock printing and an explanation about the factory. June 6, 1954, from Byrne. Dear folks, happy Sunday morning to you. You ought to be very proud of me today. Here it is, only 9:30 a.m., and I'm up, dressed for church, bed made, room straightened up, and breakfast made and eaten already. And I'm using the extra time to get started on what promises to be a manuscript to you. Daddy, you should be glad to hear that the small room of mine is making neatness a necessity. There is no space to accumulate junk. Even the writing table must be kept clean so I can write or serve meals on it. Such a model child you will see when we get back. Don't count on it lasting, though. Our Kyoto vacation is a thing of the past, but if vacations are intended to take one away mentally as well as physically from everyday routine, then this one was a success. We both feel we have been away for years, and it was surprisingly good to see Zama again. We really must be living right for when we arrived in Yokohama Thursday night, utterly weary and spent, and dreading the hour bus trip to camp and the walk with our very heavy suitcases. An angel in disguise drove up to the bus stop and offered us a ride as far as Sagamihara, which is the dependent housing area. He was a very pleasant, talkative GI who was moving the remainder of his possessions from his house in Yokohama to his new quarters in Sagamihara. Of course, we told him we were returning from vacation, and he very nicely said he would take us all the way to camp. There are such friendly people in this world. I hope someone does him a good turn someday soon. We had a fine vacation. There was such a variety of things to do. On Sunday, we took a train to the village of Takarazuka, the home of the all-girl dancers we have already told you about. In addition to seeing another review, or part of one, we enjoyed walking around the very picturesque streets and even watching some men preparing a huge paper mache animals and flowers, which are used as props for the troops' various performances. This village is also the scene of Sayonara, a current story by James Michener, which has been read by every DAC in Japan, I do believe. The hotel sponsored a sightseeing tour every day, and we took in 2 of these. Many of the places I had seen before, but it's always fascinating to see the patience and infinite detail which go into making of the damascene jewelry and the cloisonné ware. Woodblock printing especially interested me, and I went back to the workshop a second time and had a half-hour private lesson in the procedure. Remind me to explain it to you sometime. One of the loveliest shops was the Tatsumura Silk Mansion. In addition to having rooms filled with lovely material of all shades and types of silk and the latest Paris fashion magazines, which Jeanette and I pored over as avidly as if we had planned on having Christian Dior or some other name designer sew for us. In addition to all this, we were invited to wander around one of the loveliest gardens I have seen in Japan. A pool with bright-colored fish, interesting shaped stepping stones, shaded lanes with a velvety moss-covered carpet, shrubbery pruned into artistic shapes, arbors, wooden benches, and seats located at just the right spots to enjoy a particular view or object. Oh, I can't even begin to tell you how peaceful and lovely it was. One of the boys from the hotel, who was there on R&R, that means rest and recuperation, Lee from Korea, said, "This is heaven," and for a moment I caught a faint idea of how it must seem to him. On another day, as we were visiting a Buddhist temple, we walked through a beautiful park, but I think the one at the Silk Mansion surpasses any I've seen so far. We walked around Kyoto a bit on our own, too, and although it, too, is a very large city, it seems much more interesting and understandable than Tokyo. I suppose I'll never be a cosmopolitan world traveler, because I can't get sold on Tokyo, and most people look at me strangely when I say that. Oh well, to each his own. There was a dance every evening in the hotel, and we went several times. The orchestra was surprisingly good for a Japanese outfit, and there were some mighty fine boys staying there. We didn't become as friendly with them as the group at Christmas time, because this was a big city and people scattered during the daytime to do a variety of things. But I was real lucky to meet several slightly older fellows who weren't quite so juvenile as most, and we had a fine time talking and dancing. Peg, of course, met a Marine, wouldn't you know? He was real nice and lots of fun. They were a match for each other in suit and personality. One thing that impressed me about almost all of them, they were very conscious that they should watch their language. Coming from a man's world into mixed society impressed them. If even a damn or hell slipped out, they were highly apologetic. Don't let anyone ever tell me the American GI is all bad and terrible and immoral. I see that side too, but there's some mighty fine guys around too, so there. Quite a few hours later, 5:30 p.m., I've been to church where I heard a fine sermon on Pentecost by Chaplain Whipple, then spent the afternoon at the hospital where I wrote letters for a major who's had a heart attack and is forbidden any activity whatsoever. A most appreciative man, one for whom nothing would be too much trouble to do. I remembered to bring a boy my latest copy of Reader's Digest, and he was so pleased because I remembered. You would have thought it was gold bullion from the mint. If I never do another useful thing in my life, I'll know that the hours spent over at the 8169th were worthwhile anyway. I had a most interesting chat with a colored whack patient who had just been in just about every country of the world. She says you and I, Helen, must get to Switzerland. How about winning us a jackpot somewhere? Oh, before I forget it, your other overseas daughter and I were capped as gray ladies on Friday night. It was a lovely, brief ceremony in the hospital chapel with our own Chaplain Whipple present, which made me feel especially good. Perhaps Peg will send you her copy of the program. I'd like mine for the scrapbook. Now, back to Kyoto. While we were there, we decided the only proper friendly thing to do, in fact, maybe the only Christian thing to do, was to take another hour's train ride to Osaka to see Sergeant Burke. He writes occasionally to Peg, and we knew he was in the hospital down there for a leg operation. So in spite of the rain, train fatigue, etc., we spent the last day of our vacation going and coming from Osaka. It was a lucky chance because he was scheduled to leave for Korea the next day. I believe he appreciated our coming. I, for one, enjoyed the trip because he is a most interesting talker and told us many things about life in Korea as he observed it so far. Remind me to tell you how they iron their clothes and about their mourning customs, etc. Having some money left over from the vacation, burning a hole in the pocketbook, I bought a new dress at the PX, a paisley print cotton, kind of dressy but very pretty too. Peg approves, so I guess it's the real McCoy. I must get shoes, but such a problem. Either they do not have my size, or the ones in my size are too expensive to suit me. Fussy, eh? Soon we'll be reduced to wearing Zari all the time. I'd like that, but the appearance might not be so hot. Peg and Gladys went to Tokyo Saturday. A captain whom Peggy met at the wedding several weeks or months ago is here on R&R, and he had been trying all week to contact her. Their paths finally crossed by phone, so she was invited to go dancing and bring a buddy. She asked me, but I've had enough dancing to last for a while, so I persuaded Gladys to go with her. I found a note on my door when I came in that they are back and went to the club for supper. This girl's son had already eaten, so I stayed put right here. I'll have to wait till they come back to hear about the weekend. They were just here. The weekend wasn't so hot. Rather boring for both. Too bad. But you can't win them all. It will soon be time to pay insurance again, huh? I'll write another note later in the week and enclose a money order. Right now I'm getting very anxious to finish this and get it ready for mailing so that just once I can scoop Peg on the news. She always writes so darn promptly. How did you like the charms which she enclosed in her note? Very interesting, not? No? That is Damascene ware, by the way. In case I have already sent you similar pamphlets from my last trip to Kyoto, please send these to Miriam. I think she would enjoy them. Peg and I have both agreed to send a money order back to the chapter. Probably we will give a set amount as you did, Helen-san, rather than a pledge. I certainly think it will be a wonderful thing to have our own meeting place. Aren't you pleased that something is finally being done about it? I'm going to stop rambling right now. This letter should have been typewritten, but I'll be too busy at the office for several days to goof off, and so I did want to write today. Take care of yourselves. It sounds like you're having a right good share of fun too, and I'm real glad. But Helen, shouldn't you be trying some other kind of treatment for your knees? Never mind, the money will be forthcoming. I have a big bank account over here. Pay attention to what I say. Lots of love, Bern. Letter 118 from Peg, written June 7th, 1954. The stationery on this one says Headquarters, United States Army Forces, Far East, APO 343. Dear Mother and Daddy, well, it's me again. Bern wrote a letter to you last night, and she said she told you pretty much about our trip to Kyoto and about our Grey Ladies capping ceremony, so I won't talk too much about either one. Our trip had a funny beginning for me. On Thursday, right after lunch, my rear end started hurting like mad. I discovered that I had a protruding hemorrhoid, and it certainly was painful. I thought that a hot bath and some sort of ointment on it overnight would fix it up, but nothing doing. It was still as bad the next morning. I told Colonel Fancher, the medical consultant, about it, and he said that it would probably have to be excised and drained. I told him I wanted to go to Kyoto the next day, and he said I might as well forget about that trip because it would be too painful whether I had it excised or whether I let it go until I got home. He told me to go over to the billet and sit in a tub of hot water for a half hour, which I did. Well, that didn't help much. So I thought I might as well get the blasted operation over with, even if it meant not going to Kyoto. I went down to the dispensary and asked the doc if he could give me anything to relieve the pain so I could make the trip, and he said the same thing that Colonel Fancher did. It would be painful either way, so I might as well have it out. Then the fun started. He was quite skillful, and the actual cutting didn't hurt at all, but he injected procaine right smack into the middle of my octaflugeron. I think she made that up. And I almost hit the ceiling. It only took about 5 minutes, so then I took off the rest of the afternoon and sat in the tub some more. Really, I have a very high pain level because I felt wonderful Friday night, went ahead and packed to go to Kyoto. The doc said if I felt good enough to make the trip, there was no reason why I couldn't go. I got a good night's sleep and just felt marvelous the next day. Haven't been bothered since either. I got squishy tired sitting on the train for 8 hours, but I wasn't any more tired than the other girls. So that was the start of our vacation. We had a wonderful time in Kyoto, visited shrines and palaces, taking pictures of all of them, visited damascene, which is jewelry engraved with silver and gold and black enamel, and cloisonné factories. Saw them make woodblock prints, all of which were very interesting. However, we must not be the cultural type, because we all got plenty sick of looking at shrines and temples. On Wednesday, Bert and I went down to Osaka, about an hour from Kyoto, to visit Burke. He had an operation on his knee and has been in the hospital for about a month. He was very glad to see us and insisted that we stay to have supper with him, which we did. Our evenings were taken care of by the fellows who were on R&R at the hotel. They were just delighted to have a chance to talk to American women, and we were literally surrounded by them every time we walked into the ballroom. All in all, we had a marvelous time, and it seemed as though we were away for a month. We came back on Thursday. Friday, we didn't go to work, but spent the day doing errands, going to the beauty parlor and PX, and catching up on odds and ends. Friday night, I got a telephone call from a captain who I met in Tokyo about a month ago. He was on R&R and wanted me to come to Tokyo for the weekend. So I packed up my suitcase again and went on Saturday morning. We had a nice time, but he's a first-class BSer, and I got tired of listening to his lines. We had a good time Saturday night, though, and he's a wonderful dancer. He was supposed to call me about noontime on Sunday to make plans for the day. Gladys came in on Saturday because Tom had a friend who wanted a date, and Byrne refused to go, smart girl. He turned out to be a first-class jerk. Anyhow, I decided I wasn't going to waste my Sunday being snowed some more, so I left a message for Tom that another friend came in unexpectedly to Zama for only one night, and I had to leave, although I tried to call him, but the phone was busy. I'm really ashamed of myself for lying like that, but I couldn't see the point in wasting a whole Sunday. Besides, I was too tired to put on an act. So Gladys and I came back to Zama and spent the rest of the day getting caught up on some much-needed rest. Folks, I will be so glad to get out of the medical section that I sometimes wonder whether I can last these 2 weeks. It's just a good thing I got the transfer, though, because quite a few of the girls have asked for letters of availability and been refused because they can't get replacements for them. I'm so very lucky because no one said one word about a replacement for me, which means that I'm free of medical section as of 1645 on the 18th of June, 1954. I just couldn't fight on another year here. And even if TINE is as poorly organized as this place, at least it will take me about 6 months to find it out, and then I'll be in the home stretch of my contract. I haven't gotten your weekly letter today. It's usually here on Monday morning, but I guess it will get in this afternoon. Sure homesick, because that's the only letter I get regularly. In fact, some weeks it's the only letter I get, period. I don't even bother writing too many letters anymore because folks just don't answer them. I got a letter from Shirley Garland this morning telling me about her new baby. I think that's real grand, and I have an idea of a little thing I'm going to send the baby. We're planning on going to Fuji View, where we spent Christmas for the 4th of July weekend. Hope we had as much fun as we did then. The capping ceremony was very nice. I'm real glad we decided to be Gray Ladies because patients, the hospital staff, and the Red Cross seem to appreciate our services so much, which is more than we can say for the blasted army. I'm in a pretty foul mood today because all I've heard is gripes from everyone I've talked to today, besides having to contend with my own gripes. However, tomorrow, I'm sure everything will be much better. It's bound to be. It couldn't be any worse. Mother, are the heat treatments helping your knees? Have you gone to the doctor to see whether you should be doing something else for them? Please tell me the whole story. Daddy, is the translation of China Nights okay? Don't forget to sing about 4 octaves above normal in a sing-song voice when you sing it. We're invited to a party on Friday night. One of our friends is leaving Japan, Morskoshi, and we're having her as our guest. Saturday night, we're invited to a birthday party for one of the gals who came over with us. Both occasions are here in Zama, so I doubt whether we'll be out of camp at all this weekend. I've traveled enough, though, to last me a month. I should do some work now, much as I hate the thought of it. I won't seal the envelope until I get your letter because there might be something I wanted to comment on. Hey? Please take care of yourself. Right now, I'd sure like to sit down and really have a heart-to-heart talk with you, but I'd spend more time griping than talking, and you'd get fed up with listening to me. Love, Redhead. P.S. I didn't get your letter today. Darn. P.S. 2. The pretzels are just about gone, and we sure enjoyed them. Letter 119 from Bern, written June 8, 1954. Dearest Papa-san, actually, if I were a Japanese daughter addressing her father, I would use some term much more flowery and respectful. Papa-san is really used to speak to a slightly older tradespeople, such as waiters, cab drivers, etc., rather than the casual boy-san, which is the common term. However, since I only know Americanized GI Japanese, this will have to do. I've just finished reading the last letter from home, and Helen mentions that you are concerned, least I had come alone at night from Tokyo. Never happened. If that had been the case, I would have declined the invitation. I thought I mentioned at the time that PFC, Don Hartson, and Major Berth from here at Zama were also invited, and naturally they accompanied me home right to the door. So you see, I had not one but 2 escorts. Please don't worry. Really, we do not take foolish chances in any way. If you should become lost or lose your pocketbook or anything of the kind, I'll bet we would only have to stand still at that spot for perhaps half an hour, and an American MP car would come cruising along, and we could call on them for any kind of help we needed. All roads are well covered at all hours of the day and night. Nevertheless, we never do go away from camp alone at night. Never, never, never. The enclosed money order is to add to the bank account in time to pay for the insurances, which will be due in July. You will be kind enough to take care of this matter, will you not? Our special service library was closed during the week. We were in Kyoto. Wasn't that a happy coincidence? But now it has reopened with Taka's-own more books than ever. Peg and I stopped in last night, and there were so many new books of all kinds that in about 5 minutes' time, we had each found 3 or 4 we wanted without going past the first shelf. How'd you like that? You can well imagine where I'll be spending my leisure time at camp. Tonight I'm going to go over to the field house for the first time since I've been here at Zama. It is the gymnasium, and on Tuesdays it is open to women only. Folks have been telling me they have fine equipment of all kinds, so I think I'll have to experiment. No, this sudden move is not because I'm getting fat. In fact, I weigh 130, which is 5 pounds less than when I left home. So there. It's just that I feel in the mood for badminton or tennis or something, so if I can find a buddy, I'm going to wander over. Tell you more about the acquired bruises and black and blue marks later. Never say I don't love you. It's 10 minutes past quitting time, and I'm calmly sitting here finishing this note for you, keeping Peg waiting in the meantime at the club for our supper. You make such slurry remarks about my handwriting at times that I figured the kindest thing I could do is finish on the machine rather than back in the billet. Joke. There was a herring and a whale who were great friends and always were seen together. One day, however, the other fish saw the herring without the whale and asked about it. The herring replied, "How should I know where he is? Am I my blubber's kipper?" Okay, that's all, folks. Love, Burnson. Included in this letter is a church bulletin from the summer of 1955. Post Chapel, Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania. I noticed that the chaplain was Ivan C. Whipple, and he's their chaplain in Japan right now. So I guess he ends up in their area, and I guess they got to see him again. I think that's pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast, and if you are, please subscribe in Spotify. On Apple Podcasts, hit the plus button in the top right-hand corner and rate. This will help my listeners find my podcast more easily. You can access the show's website at www.FromMcClayToZama.com, where I've posted photos and links from the episodes. The podcast is now available on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Patreon, and Amazon as well. New episodes will be available each Friday morning. The letters were written by my aunts Bern and Peg, transcribed by me. I write and record the show and have created the artwork and original music. Our producer is Zeke, our sound engineer is intern Sylvie, and the security is provided by intern Frey. Thanks to my great-grandparents, John and Helen, who loved us all and thought it was a good idea to save the letters. All rights reserved, 2024.